it's me again, Teresa. I promised that I'd continue with my video about Japan and the involved loving traditions that surround death. Remember, I was last sharing the story about chopsticks. How cremation is handled in most traditional Japanese homes. Using a special pair of chopsticks, one bamboo, one willow. The traditional Japanese pick out one particular neck bone that appears to contain a seated Buddha figure. Then everyone, from the gray hairs to the toddlers, takes up chopsticks and transfers bones to a small pot. When that pot is full, it's covered with a white cloth, and usually it gets carried to the family gravesite. One important aspect of this is that the deceased person is given a special name, which is said to prevent the dead person from coming back whenever the name they had in life was spoken. Usually this name is written on a wooden grave marker. The urn, that pot, might be taken home and kept there until after the 49th day memorial service. It depends on the custom prevalent in that area and the religion. In some areas, the urn is taken directly to the cemetery. In rural areas, there might even be a funeral procession to the cemetery, with relatives and friends carrying that urn, the long wooden post or the wooden strip bearing the new name of the deceased, a picture of the deceased, ornaments that were used at the funeral, etc. There are large differences in the ornaments, the floral arrangements, and the processions themselves that are all dependent on local customs. Afterwards, custom dictates certain days are reserved for honoring the dead, because this is not the end, it's the beginning. The collected bones are returned home and set on an altar in front of the Butsudan and remain there until they are interred at the family grave. The portrait of the deceased is hung nearby. Buddhism prescribes a series of memorial ceremonies after death. The form of these ceremonies, a priest chanting sutra, prayer, incense burning, are the same as in the funeral, but much less formal. They're usually held in the immediate family's home. Strict Buddhist tradition calls for ceremonies every 7 days after the death, and then every 7th day until the 49th day. But when relatives can't afford to travel or take time from their work, only 1 or 2 ceremonies are held before this 49th day. This is how the veneration of a Japanese ancestor begins. After the 49th day ceremony, Buddhism calls for another on the 100th day, and then an annual ceremony until the 50th year. In Japan, the annual memorial ceremony is replaced by the celebration of Oban, a 3-day celebration in August, when the spirits of ancestors are said to return to their families' homes. The traditions of Oban take various forms throughout Japan. Lamps might be lit at the Butsudan, and small fires may be burned in front of the door to guide the spirits back home. Some families visit their gravesite. Some clean the grave and carry their ancestors home with them. The custom of floating small boats, that's what they call them, kind of, on the final day, filled with offerings of food and a candle on a river or the sea, has truthfully been outlawed in most of Japan, but to be honest, it seems as if nobody does too much about it because the custom still happens. Once again, I'm suggesting www.joincake.com and then follow it by the words Japanese death. Japanese society is entrenched in cultural roots and traditions that give a great amount of honor and appreciation to the dead. That's not easy to say because they're not morbid or they're not death obsessed. They just have lots of festivals and celebrate lots of aspects of life. But they do honorably include death as an important aspect of life. Okay. Although not all Japanese people are observant Buddhists, Buddhism seems to have a near monopoly on the conducting of Japanese funeral and cremation rites, as well as memorial days after burials to show the continued respect for the dead. However, some Japanese people elect for a Christian or a Shinto burial instead. It's a matter of personal conviction. Foreigners should take care to avoid offense by understanding some of the more prevalent superstitions, especially those surrounding death, because they are the ones more likely to inspire intense fear around the wrong people. As in any culture, humility and respect go a long way. Ask questions. It's been fun to learn more about the intricacies of Japan and the ceremonies for the dead. Thanks, Una, for your inspiration and for listening. Bye, friend. And you viewers, please subscribe and write questions. We want to keep providing helpful videos. You are a big part of that. Thanks.